Hi there, I'm your host, Koen, from the Next Astro YouTube channel, and I'm your host today for the Escape Pod. Today, we're talking with one of the Nexus Aurora projects, namely aerospace 3D printing. Today, we're talking with Eli Malak. He's from Oregon in the United States. He's the originator and the lead in a Discord server named Aerospace 3D Printing. And today he is going to talk to you about all the interesting stuff that he has made with his team up till now. And Eli, can you tell us something about these cool projects that you have been working on?
Sure. Thank you very much for the introduction. Hello, everyone. First of all, it's a pleasure being here, and I wanted to thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about my project. So, without further ado, let's proceed with the presentation. So, well, some of you may not know what 3D printing is, so let's just talk about it briefly. 3D printing is the process of turning 3D models into 3D objects by layering material to form the desired object. This layer-by-layer method allows us to create a variety of objects, all the way from art to prototypes. The image shows some of the models we have created as part of the Nexus Aurora Colony project. Our goal is to try to create a sort of 3D printed diorama, if you will, of the colony. These objects were created using something called filament, which is basically plastic that has a small diameter and can be melted and then hardened onto each layer of the print. Now, this is not the only way to go about 3D printing, but it is definitely one of the common methods, and we will talk about this a bit more later. So, there are two main types of 3D printers. FDM, which stands for Fused Deposition Modeling, and SLA, which stands for Stereolithography. These two printers are different in some ways, but alike in others, so let's briefly talk about that. In an FDM printer, the printer uses mostly plastic that it melts and then cools using a heated extruder onto each layer to form the desired object. However, an SLA printer uses mostly liquid resin with a UV laser that is directed using mirrors that are controlled by accurate motors to direct the light at a specific area of the object to harden the resin. Now, these two printers have some limitations, but also have some advantages. An FDM printer is made out of a lot more readily available parts than an SLA printer, so because of how the machines work, it's easier to create a larger print bed with an FDM printer since it does not use a laser that has to bend to reach the whole area of the print bed. However, because an FDM printer uses plastic and is controlled by simple up, down, left, and right motors, it is not as accurate as an SLA printer, which makes SLA prints have more detail than FDM ones. So here you can see how the FDM 3D printer works. The filament comes through the top of the white extruder, and then it passes through the heating chamber, where the fan cools it down to regulate the temperature of the print to about 220 degrees Celsius, depending on the type of filament, where it is extruded out onto the previous layer, forming the object. So when designing 3D models with the intention of 3D printing them, there are a few things to keep in mind. Gravity plays an important role in 3D printing and can cause some problems if the part is not modeled correctly. If the model has more than 45-degree angled parts, the plastic will either start drooping down or just make the print fail altogether. If the model does not have steep angles, the slicer, which will automatically convert the model into code for the printer, will have to add supports if it has more than 45 degrees. However, there are some exceptions to this 45-degree rule. If there are two walls and the printer is just making a roof, if you will, between them, depending on how far away the walls are, the printer may not need supports as shown in the bottom picture. The farther away the walls are, the more the plastic droops down. A good 3D model has to take these issues into consideration without interfering with the final result. Another possible issue with the 3D model and its ability to be 3D printed is the software that was used to create the 3D model. As you can see, the two parts were printed as one, but the walls that divide them are still there. It should have made that infill that you can see, which looks like a graph, but it didn't, and that happens sometimes, but some softwares are a bit easier to use, and they can fix these problems automatically, while on others you may have to take a few extra steps, such as adding a Boolean modifier in Blender, for example. So moving on to the applications of 3D printing, you can custom 3D print almost anything your heart desires to help with 3D printing technologies. It is used in the medical field, robotics, art, manufacturing, industrial, architecture, prototyping, and so many more. So as you can see, some manufacturers use 3D printing technologies to create their finished product. So some even use the 3D printing to create molds for jewelry, so there are really almost endless of possibilities what you can use 3D printing for. But 3D printers are not only used on Earth. There are also applications for 3D printing in outer space. Recently, Made in Space launched their 3D printer on the ISS, and it made the first 3D print in space, which is the wrench you can see here. This is only the beginning, and I believe many more things will be made in space using 3D printers, just because of how convenient it is to just print what you need whenever you want. So, now that we've talked about 3D printers and how they've worked, I want to talk a bit more about the difference between a render of a 3D model and an actual 3D print. As you can see, this is one of the helmets made for the EVO spacesuit team in Nexus Aurora. On the left is the render, and on the right is the actual 3D print. You can see the imperfections in the print on the left, such as the leftover support material and the layer lines. This is one of the temporary buildings in the Nexus Aurora colony. Again, there are imperfections in the print, and that is one of the downsides of 3D printing, but this is a pretty close replica, which is why 3D printing is so popular. It's faster than ordering parts, and you can get creative with it by painting it, for example. The yellow detailing on the 3D print was hand-painted. This is the school building for in the colony project. The blue is there to represent water for radiation protection, and again, render on the left, 3D print on the right. So, when we first started 3D printing things for the project, we wanted to make some time lapses of a few prints. This was my first attempt, but as you can see, there are some lighting issues, and it just didn't have the quality I was going for. So after this attempt, I started creating a giant black box with lights to put the 3D printer inside. This turned out to be much better. This is the new time-lapse I was talking about. The way this works is it has a black box to prevent the lighting issues from before, and we 3D printed a clicker for a camera shutter button. The signal was then sent to the camera to take a picture every time the 3D printer finished printing a layer, and move the print head out of the way. I also got some help from Vicus, who is a CG generalist, and he helped create the infographics and smoke effects in the background. As you can see, we are always learning and improving. So now, we're going to talk a bit more about some of the pictures and videos in our aerospace 3D printing subreddit. This is an idea for a Martian habitat using 3D printing to create awesome geometric shapes to improve the quality of life of the colonists. This building really shows the layer lines when 3D printing it, but still, it makes the building kind of unique in my opinion. This is a 3D print of the Falcon 9 rocket, and as you can see, this is just another example of how many possibilities there are with the help of 3D printing. So in this video, you can see the connection between 3D prints and electronics. They use a 3D printed hand that is tracked, and then the data is transferred to an Arduino that makes the other hand replicate the movement, which can be used in space later on for rovers, robots, etc. So this one is a bit different. A team of physicists at a university in the Netherlands 3D printed an extremely small Star Trek spaceship that they call microswimmers. Microswimmers are small particles that can move through liquid on their own by interacting with their environment through chemical reactions. So the platinum coating on the microswimmers reacts to a hydrogen peroxide solution they are placed in, and that propels them through the liquid. So, and last but not least, you can see two 3D printed rockets being launched. The Mark 1, which is on the left, uses an ST's A83 engine, and the one on the right, Mark 2, uses an ST's C65 engine. So if anything in the presentation interests you and you would like to join, you can. Our project is open for anyone to participate in, whether you are looking to learn something new or you just want to hang out with some other like-minded aerospace 3D print enthusiasts. Come join us. You can find our subreddit here at aerospace 3D printing, our Instagram aerospace.3d.printing, and lastly we talk about on our Discord server we talk mostly, so that's at the link at the bottom.
That's a very nice presentation, Eli. It was very some interesting stuff. And for a lot of people who are maybe new to 3D printing, so good that you also gave a short introduction. I have some questions that we might be able to discuss. You talked about your time lapses and that you changed the setup a little bit with the black box, for example. Can you tell us a little bit, because I saw in the video it was 38 hours, this 3D print
Yeah.
that you did. Was that specifically because of the way that you tried to create this time lapse, and what did you learn from this process?
Alright, so we made the smoke and the lights in Blender, and we basically edited out the background, and then we put the scene in. And the reason why it took so long for the 38 hours is just because of how 3D printers work. They have to make every single layer by layer, and so that takes a lot of time, since if you go too fast, the plastic might not fully cement onto the other layer, and so it may just fall off and then cause the whole print to fail. So we had to take it a little bit slow on this print to make sure it worked out.
You talked about SLA printers as an alternative to the filament printing that you are using in this video as well. Is it true that there's also, I think it's called metal laser sintering 3D printing methods? Might be more expensive, but do you feel that there's a future for that maybe in space? Because we saw the wrench, but the wrench was made with plastic now in space, right? It
Right,
would be
yeah.
better to have it maybe in metal.
Yeah.
How do you think about that?
Well, I think it's definitely possible. I haven't looked into that kind of 3D printer very much. But with the way things are going, everyone is always, advancing science, and 3D printers are becoming more affordable, easier to use, So, who knows? That might be in the next couple of years. You might see that on Mars, maybe. So, yeah,
Yeah, that would be really nice. Or maybe first on the moon to try and print some stuff.
absolutely.
Yeah, and what I'm also realizing actually is that a few days ago, I think a German company printed the first 3D printed house. I don't know if you heard about that, but that also showcases at least the quality of this type of technology and the ways that it can be used. Maybe also on other planets and moons in aerospace engineering, of course.
Yep.
Yeah, that's really, really awesome. Yeah, and do you own yourself an SLA printer as well?
I don't. I've used it in some other places, in some of the colleges nearby. I've been able to use them there. Um, the library as well, they have them. But I personally don't have an SLA printer, just because it's also fairly dangerous because of the fumes of the resin. So you have to be careful with it. You have to have venting for it for outside. That way we don't get toxic fumes breathed in.
Yes, and one of the interesting advantages that you might have from SLA printing is that you print it like almost instantly. Like one layer is very high detail and also very high quality, as I understand it. And the interesting thing is that the prices have come down considerably with the aptly named Saturn and Mars 3D printers by Elegoo, for example.
Right.
Might be a cool solution in the future to work with that as well. But if we look at the nice picture that you're showing us right here, you really achieve already pretty great results with this printer. So what is the maximum building volume of your 3D printer?
I believe it prints, so it's a delta printer, so that means that the bed is actually a circle, and so it has a 370 millimeter diameter, and it prints up to 455 millimeters tall.
Oh, that's a big one. And that's it's maybe even a meter high or so, right? Because
Correct.
these Delta printers have very long arms. Yeah, that's cool. So can you tell us maybe, and all the people watching this video, what are you most proud of that you have done together on the A3DP subreddit and of course the Discord server?
Well, I mean, I'm proud of a lot of things that we've accomplished. We've learned a lot from our mistakes, and we've learned a lot of modeling problems that can be fixed. I'm proud of the community that we've created. We're all very supportive of each other, and whenever someone needs help with 3D printing, we're always there to help. So definitely join if you want to come in on that.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion, and I am, as you know, part of the Discord server as
Right.
well. I follow you from a distance, but I see that the great project that you are doing right there. So great job on that front, and I think the pictures that you're showing, and of course the nice time lapses speak for themselves. Can you tell us what everyday use you yourself have with this 3D printing technology? Do you use it to create objects that are useful besides these nice models that you're showing us?
Yeah, I mean, for example, I have some headphones that I 3D printed a kind of like a stand for my desk, and it just hangs underneath my desk. I also made a few, like a fruit picker at one point, so that you can reach high up into the trees, and then the fruit will fall into a bag. It's also like art things for robotics. Made like a Wally replica from the movie Wally. Um,
Mhm.
and so there's a lot of things that you can do with 3D printing, but those are a few that I use.
And just to remind people, Eli is the one who started A3DP Discord, the Discord server. But people can also reach you on this Discord server, and it is free to join, as you showed on the last page of your presentation. The link is also in the video description for anyone who's interested, of course. And please make sure to follow aerospace 3D printing also on Instagram, and subscribe to the subreddit as well, because there's some really cool images there that the people share, and knowledge is shared, and you can learn from each other. But is it true that people can also reach you directly, and how would they do that?
Yeah, you can usually. I would prefer the best method would be to just join the Discord server, and then you can just direct message me through there, and I'd be happy to answer any of your questions.
And can you maybe tell everyone what type of 3D printing you're mostly focusing on in the Discord server?
Alright, so most of the 3D printing we do is either rocketry or, the colony buildings, so things that are going to be aerospace related. There's a big range of things for that, like that arm that I showed from the subreddit. There's the rockets that launched. Um, there's endless possibilities to what we can make, but those are just a few examples.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is, of course, as some of the viewers might know, that the Nexus Aurora network, the Global Aerospace Innovation Network, is a group of Discord servers where a lot of content is being created. So there's room for everyone to join a Discord server that they really like to contribute to themselves. And that's also where you get a lot of your future 3D printing material from. As I know, because you showed some really great pictures of 3D prints from a Mars colony project that Nexus Aurora itself did and won the Mars City State Design Contest with. Also, you were one of those winners together with me as well. So that was really cool to work on that, and it also shows that working with all of these people from all around the world, because it doesn't really matter where you come from. Yeah, it can really lead you to great heights, and yeah, even win a worldwide competition with 175 entries from all over the world. So yeah, that's really cool, and yeah, to see that you are still going strong with this great community with 3D printing is really good to see. So let's say we're going to look into the future for the next 10 years, and your Discord server is growing and growing. What kind of cool projects do you feel would be really cool in the next years to work on?
I think it would be awesome to see, a community collaborated diorama project. If we could have like a full 3D printed Mars colony, in accordance to the Nexus Aurora colony that again won the first place in the Mars Society competition. I think that would be really amazing to show. Could teach a lot of people about what we're doing, and how we hope to improve and allow more people to know about the Mars colonization effort.
Yes, because you're very passionate about that. I know that for a fact. It was really great talking to you. Really interesting conversation. I would like to remind all the viewers again that your Discord server, subreddit, and Instagram account that you're showing right now on the screen are free to join for anyone who is interested or is maybe thinking about joining. It's really worth your time, I can tell you that. Thank you, Eli. That was a really interesting presentation. I think many people will join your Discord server or subreddit or Instagram in a heartbeat. The links are in the description below. I've been your host, Koen, from the Next Astro YouTube channel, and this has been The Escape Pod. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you soon.